Tonight, CBC News has learned that a minimum wage hike is coming to Ontario. We'll have more details on the increase and when it's set to take effect. Plus,
He didn't explain what he was. He just wore all black and every day. It was just upsetting.
the fallout continues after a Toronto high school teacher showed up to class in blackface. And
it's almost unbelievable.
we get a sneak peek of a new electric autonomous shuttle bus hitting the streets of Durham.
This is CBC Toronto News.
Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. CBC News has learned Premier Doug Ford will increase Ontario's minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now, one worker advocate says while she hoped it would have happened sooner, today marks an important step.
Any increase in the minimum wage is so incredibly important for people who are, trying to survive on $14.35 an hour.
That's the current minimum wage in the province. Sources confirmed with CBC that the increase to $15 is set to take effect on January 1st. Sources go on to tell us workers who serve alcohol and receive tips will also see an increase to $15 from $12.55. Following these raises, the minimum wage will increase every October according to the inflation rate. Now, this comes after the Ford government froze the hourly minimum wage at $14 shortly after winning the election in 2018. The freeze stayed in place until October 2020, when it was increased by 25 cents. The minimum wage was last increased by 10 cents this past October 1st. An official announcement from the province is expected tomorrow. A Toronto teacher who wore a racist costume to school had to work from home today. The teacher at Parkdale Collegiate was put on home assignment after he showed up to class on Friday wearing blackface during Halloween celebrations. As Talia Ricci reports, students and parents she spoke with today say they want more action taken. And a warning, this story contains some offensive images.
Students at Parkdale Collegiate say seeing a person of authority, a teacher wearing blackface, is going to take some time to process.
We come to school to be in a safe space, but I don't think that was really a safe, and it obviously offended people, and it's just horrible.
He didn't explain what he was. He just wore all black and every day. It was just upsetting.
Students and parents say the teacher was in the classroom and attended an assembly in blackface. This assistant professor says it's important for people to understand the historical context.
In the 1920s, it was very common to go to a local high school and attend a blackface show at the high school. Because we don't understand that our public schools have been used in this way historically, when they happen in the contemporary, people seem like they just want to dismiss it as an incident. Meanwhile, there's a century-long lineage of this thing happening. So it's not an incident. It's just a continuation.
CBC News reached out to the teacher for comment. The TDSB says the teacher is under investigation and has been placed on home assignment.
Something like that can result in disciplinary action up to and including termination.
In a letter to students and parents, the school's principal called the incident racist and dehumanizing, adding that while it's begun doing the work to address anti-black racism, it's clear that more work needs to be done. Parents agree, and they're calling for stronger action.
Better communication between the school community and from the administration on what they're doing around anti-racism. And then in the bigger picture, this is about a huge culture shift that's needed in the TDSB.
I'm concerned about where we go from here. How do we teach? How do we learn from this?
Those questions and demands are outlined in an open letter and petition, which has over 1,000 signatures. Many are commending the actions of the students for bringing the incident to light.
Students spoke up, that parents listened to the students, and then they did something about it.
I like how we're all discussing about it and not just leaving off the topic, because it's a very important topic to talk about.
It makes me feel like 10 times better.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
For more than 50 years, Camp Wahanawin and the National Music Camp have been childhood staples for generations of families. Both are overnight summer camps about 2 hours north of Toronto. But now both are being sued for allegedly failing to take action to change a sexualized environment that former female employees allege allowed male staff members to abuse them. The CBC's Angelina King has this exclusive story and a warning. This story contains disturbing content and may be triggering for those who have experienced sexual violence or know someone affected by it.
The two women who were teens at the time describe what happened to them as grooming. They met Tom Lees at the camp. He was helping to run the theater department. They say he was talented and popular. They were 15. He was nearly double their age. We're not identifying the women who were underage victims of sexual abuse. Instead, we'll call them Anne and Paige. They both say Lees pursued a secret sexual relationship with them through social media, including asking them for nude photos.
It all happened very quickly, and it all happened in a very precise manner. He knew there was a power dynamic. He took advantage of it.
In the summer of 2019, Anne says she discovered Lees was holding private rehearsals with a preteen girl at camp. She told Paige, and that's when the two decided they had to call police. We spoke with Anne over the phone.
I felt more of a responsibility to protect everyone else that I knew and every other camper in that camp from experiencing him in the way that I did.
Lees was arrested at camp. Months later, he pleaded guilty to luring a person under 16 and possession of child pornography. The lawsuit claims the camp was negligent in failing to change its sexualized camp environments, which allowed for illegal and immoral sexual activities with children who were under their supervision. It also claims Paige and Anne were victims of sexual abuse by two other male staff members. In its statement of defense, the camps say they weren't negligent and deny that they in any way knowingly aided, encouraged, permitted, acquiesced, or covered up any acts of sexual grooming, misconduct, or abuse. The suit has not been tested in court. But two former senior staff members told CBC News they warned the camp's leadership about Lees in 2017, the same summer he met Paige. One of those staffers say she argued during a 2018 meeting he should not be hired back. But he was. CBC News spoke with several former employees who say that the camp directors knew about several other allegations of sexual assault, but say the bosses never suggested calling police. The camp's lawyer declined our request for comment. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
To read more about the year-long investigation into sexual abuse allegations at the camp, head to our website, cbc.ca/Toronto. And we're seeing for the first time tonight video of a police interview with serial killer Bruce McArthur. CBC News was among the media outlets that argued for the video's release, saying not doing so violated the principle of open and transparent courts. Now, CBC has viewed the whole interview, but as its contents have previously been reported, we have decided to only show a short portion in order to limit its impact on victims' families and survivors and to reduce gratuitous publicity of McArthur's crimes.
Has anything like this ever happened before where things got out of hand?
Not like that, no, not that quickly. I mean, not just like that.
Okay. Things have never gotten violent?
No.
Okay.
The 11-minute interview was conducted in June of 2016 after a man claimed McArthur had violently choked him. The police officer who carried out the interview and later let McArthur go was Sergeant Paul Gauthier. McArthur would go on to kill at least 2 of his 8 known victims. Gauthier was charged with insubordination and neglect of duty under the Police Services Act for his handling of the case. Gauthier was found not guilty last August. His interview of McArthur was entered as evidence at his disciplinary hearing. However, it was suddenly withdrawn, prompting the court battle. McArthur pleaded guilty to the murders of 8 men in January 2019. He will be eligible to apply for parole after spending at least 25 years in prison. Court resumed today in the trial of Brady Robertson, the 20-year-old man charged in a horrific crash last year that killed a Brampton mother and her 3 young children. Robertson has already pleaded guilty to 4 charges in relation to their deaths. But today, prosecutors tried to prove Robertson was impaired by marijuana when the accident happened. If he's found guilty, it could greatly lengthen his prison sentence. Ali Chiasson has more.
Today we heard from an expert witness called by the defense. Dr. Jack Utrecht is a clinical pharmacologist and U of T professor who's an expert in drug metabolization, which is relevant to this case because the defense is arguing that Brady Robertson was not impaired by cannabis when he was driving the day of the crash, even though a blood test showed that he had 8 times the legal limit of THC in his bloodstream. When it comes to impairment, the expert said, quote, "A simple blood level is not the way to determine it." As he explained in his testimony, how impaired a person is depends on many different variables: the dose, the strain, the potency, the time they smoked, the amount of fat in the body, and an individual's tolerance. Robertson was found to have 40 nanograms per milliliter of THC in his blood. The legal limit is 5. The toxicologist who examined Robertson's blood samples the day of the crash also testified today. Dr. Betty Chow said a blood concentration that high could suggest he was a chronic user. Quote, "THC indicators higher than, say, 20 nanograms is a pretty good indicator of chronic use." 21-year-old Brady Robertson had already pleaded guilty to 4 counts of dangerous driving causing death. In June 2020, while attempting to run a red light at a busy Brampton intersection, he slammed his Infiniti into an oncoming Volkswagen, driven by Carolina Chiasulo. She and her 3 children died in the crash. He's not contesting that he was driving dangerously, but believes he is not guilty of impaired driving causing death, which would likely mean another 14 years onto his sentence if convicted. More toxicology testimony will be heard when court resumes tomorrow. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Brampton.
Meteorologist Nick Cernkovich joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Nick, a cool and breezy day. Temperatures pretty much on point for this time of year.
Yeah, we're looking at temperatures that hit 10 degrees through the afternoon. That is basically the seasonal mark for the city of Toronto, but definitely feeling it with the breezy conditions as well. We had gusts up to about 50 kilometers per hour. There's a look at some of the afternoon temperatures. And again, the average for this time of year for the city of Toronto, about 10.2. So we're pretty much bang on the average. Moving through the overnight period tonight, we're looking at partly cloudy skies. Look at this, though. We're starting to see some wet flurries through the overnight in some of the higher elevations. Places like the Dundalk Highlands will see them, but we're going to actually see more of that coming up as we head through tomorrow evening, and temperatures through the overnights dipping below 0. Otherwise, tomorrow, looking at a mix of sun and cloud, we've got the slight chance of seeing a few spotty showers in the forecast for tomorrow. And a little cooler, 8 degrees there. There's a look at your forecast. Breezy conditions, 2 degrees tonight in the city of Toronto, cooler elsewhere. 8 for tomorrow, windy again, and about a 40% chance of seeing a few showers. Now, I mentioned those flurries. I'm going to talk more about that coming up in just a little bit.
National Advisory Committee on Immunization has expanded its recommendations for who should get a COVID-19 booster shot. It includes people over the age of 80, Indigenous adults, and some frontline healthcare workers. One expert says that a focused approach will be the most effective.
I think when you look at the data, it's pretty clear that you get the greatest benefit from boosters if you really focus on the highest risk groups. So if you look at the people who are older, who are immunocompromised for some reason, or who have suboptimal immunity for some reason because they're taking medications or they have some immunodeficiency.
NACI adds that booster shots should be given at least 6 months after the second dose of the vaccine. And boosters should be one of the mRNA vaccines, Pfizer-BioNTech or Moderna. The final decision on who is eligible for an additional shot still rests with the individual provinces and territories. Well, the deadline is up for Metrolinx employees to prove they've been immunized against COVID-19. A vaccine mandate is now in effect for all workers, with Metrolinx suspending those who have not complied. As Natalie Collada reports, this is resulting in some service cancellations.
Commuters be warned.
Oh, wow. I don't know.
Not the north, please.
Metrolinx says while roughly 97% of its staff is on board with its vaccine mandate, with it now in effect, the remaining holdouts are causing some hold-ups.
What we anticipate is approximately 6% of our buses and a few trains a day may be impacted by it.
Today, that meant a handful of cancellations in locations like Barrie, Brantford, and Richmond Hill. The company says it's looking to minimize the impact.
We look at what's the ridership at that particular time in place. What other connections do they have? Do they have options.
Metrolinx isn't the only one with contingency plans. Today, City of Toronto staff had to prove they received at least one jab or face 6 weeks of unpaid leave.
We have plans in place to make sure that for the average resident of the City of Toronto, that there is very little to no impact on the services they receive from us.
But there is concern about the impact of a similar policy on Ontario's healthcare system. The government still reviewing a survey from hospitals before making a decision on a mandate.
BC's had to cancel a number of the surgeries that they wanted to catch up on, where they were backlogged, because they've had 4,000 healthcare workers that are no longer going to be working with them. So that's one of the concerns that we've been thinking of since the beginning.
As of yesterday, just over 84% of eligible Ontarians are fully vaccinated, and more than 88% have received at least one dose.
I don't want to be vaccinated. Can I lose my job? I'm getting calls every single day.
Suing for losing your job because you refuse to be vaccinated has yet to be tested in court, but legal experts are doubtful.
Your chance of winning a trial is slightly better than a snowball's chance in hell. Employers have a duty to keep a safe workplace, and there could be literally a $10 million fine a year in jail if they don't.
Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
It's a first in Canada, an electric self-driving vehicle that will be fully integrated into a transit service. And within a week, commuters in Durham can hop on for a ride. Ardell Manukduk was among those who got a sneak peek today.
People don't know how to interact with it, right?
You've heard of hands-free? Well, this little bus named Ollie is also driver-free.
I would never have thought you go on the bus and there's no driver. In a way, it's kind of scary.
Oh, there's a lot more room than you think. Oh, this is comfy. This is sick.
The Wave Pilot, or Whitby Autonomous Vehicle Electric Shuttle, will operate on Route 300 of Durham Region Transit. It's a 6-kilometer route that starts and ends at the Whitby GO station, and during the pilot, you won't have to pay to ride the Wave.
And we chose the route because it has residential, it has commercial, it has industrial, it has a little bit of everything. But it's not overly busy, so it will be running during off-peak times during the weekday and then on weekends as well.
The bus travels at 20 kilometers per hour and seats 8, all with seat belts, but due to COVID is limited to 4 passengers for now. How does it know where it's going?
There are radars hidden right behind these corners to LiDARs.
Ollie has tons of radars and cameras, and for now, a human on board at all times.
As part of regulations, we actually will have an onboard safety attendant that's there at all times. They can take over the shuttle in any event.
Here, the vehicle brakes as a cyclist runs a stop sign. It has 360-degree situational awareness at all times and is more cautious than many drivers.
Especially in a 4-way stop, as long as it detects someone creeping, it's going to stop.
The bus can be taken over at any time and operated with this joystick. The goal is to remove the human element within the next 3 to 5 years.
This is where a lot of the jobs are going to be in transportation, and certainly the whole automated and autonomous aspect is going to increase as as time goes on.
It's still years away from being available widespread. For now, Ollie will operate on weekdays from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekends. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Whitby.
You're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. Partly cloudy this evening, becoming mainly clear overnight. Currently, it's 7 degrees in the city. Let's go back to Nick now with a look at your extended forecast. And Nick, nights getting colder and some wet weather heading our way.
Yeah, Caldo, what we're looking at here is temperatures dropping down below the 0 mark and certainly outside of the GTA, and that's going to make for some wet flurries and a few scattered showers as well. Weather headlines look like this. Breezy conditions remain at least for the next, say, 24 hours, maybe 36 hours. Scattered showers in the forecast and temps actually below seasonal. That also means, by the way, overnight lows getting down below the 0 mark. I'm going to show you that in just a sec. Here's a look at the precipitation that you can expect heading into tomorrow morning. A few scattered showers and even some wet flurries in the higher elevations to the north of the GTA. As we head through the afternoon, though, again, scattered showers, the risk of it in the city. So we've got about a 40% chance of seeing it. It should be fairly short-lived, but I just want to make you aware of that. But take a look at this. As we head through tomorrow night, look at that. north of the GTA. Some of the areas likely to see some wet flurries. I don't know that we're going to see much in the way of accumulations, but definitely could slick up the roads for Wednesday morning if you're commuting in from north of the city. That carries on into Wednesday, and basically this pattern continues for the next few. So we've got a mix of sun and cloud in the forecast, and again the risk of a few spotty showers in the city of Toronto coming up over tomorrow and the day following as well into Wednesday. Windy conditions continue as we move through the overnight period, still gusting to about 40, even 50 kilometers per hour. Starts to ease off as we head into Wednesday, but still looking at winds up to about 40 kilometers per hour for the next 24 hours. There's a look at your forecast overnight lows for tonight in southwestern Ontario. Tomorrow, temperatures a little below seasonal. And then around the Golden Horseshoe, we're looking at temps just around the 0 mark and up to about 8 degrees tomorrow. But long-range forecast. Cooler temperatures, also overnight lows around the 0 mark. Watch for that frost coming up for the next few days. Kelda.
All right, thanks so much, Nick. There's a proper place for those post-Halloween pumpkins. 35 parks across the city were lit with jack-o'-lanterns this evening. It's part of the city's annual pumpkin parade, where residents get to show off their carved creations and then have them picked up by city staff who turn them into compost. And as the city wraps up Halloween, it's already gearing up for the holiday season. A giant Christmas tree was unveiled today at the Distillery Winter Village.
The Distillery Winter Village is really just a magical place to come and enjoy the spirit of the holidays.
And the tree was sourced from Milton and has been placed at Trinity Square in the Distillery District. This year, the Toronto Christmas Market has been rebranded as the Distillery Winter Village, which will feel less like a festival in order to focus on shopping and dining at more than 75 retailers and restaurants. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll leave you now with another look at some of the creations at Toronto's Pumpkin Parade. See you tomorrow.